Hello and welcome to the SciFirst MovieTalk episode. So in this episode, I am actually bringing you something a little bit different to my usual reviews. And in that, I'll be discussing the 2022 documentary film In Search of Tomorrow, as written and directed by David A. Weiner. The documentary is a 5-hour-long epic showcase of 80s science fiction classic movies, charting some of the biggest hits, curiosities, and indeed cult favourites throughout the decade, how they influenced science fiction in general, and how they themselves influenced an entire generation. Now, this actually marks the first review of a documentary on the channel, and after being approached by the makers of the film, Creator VC, after being put forward by fellow YouTuber Trevor Alonso of the Zoe Productions, with whom I have previously collaborated, to undertake a pre-release review of the documentary, which I thought was an absolutely incredible opportunity, especially given the scope of the documentary itself, you know, and indeed its core subject, 80s science fiction. In exchange for the review, as a disclaimer, I was, as I stated, given exclusive access to a digital copy of the documentary, which I do get to keep as part of my digital collection. But not only that, I also received 2 free digital codes for the documentary to share with my audience, which again was a really kind gesture and such a fantastic opportunity for me to give something back to the growing community that follow my channel, and indeed thank all of you for your amazing support. So I'll be giving away the 2 access codes that I've been kindly given for the documentary to 2 lucky individuals, completely free of charge. And so if you are interested in winning one of these exclusive codes and are able to kind of fill your boots with oozes of 80s nostalgia, then please do watch until the end, where I will give further details of the giveaway and how you can enter and to be in with a chance, you know, of grabbing yourself a slice of the 80s. Also, keep watching to find out how you can also obtain a copy of the documentary for yourself, which does contain, well, it is a unique package, to be fair, that features a Blu-ray or DVD edition with a slipcase, I believe, some posters, stickers, a digital download of the movie itself and the soundtrack, and you can also have your name in the credits of the documentary too. So I think it's a crowd-funded exercise, and it follows on from, I think, what they've done with a couple of horror documentaries. In Search of Darkness, yes, I think there's 3 of those. But yeah, so In Search of Tomorrow. So now, let's get into it, the documentary itself, In Search of Tomorrow. So, I mean, what a great title to begin with. Now, whether or not it was intended this way or not, which I don't know, I think it's very kind of reflective of the 80s in general. I mean, love it, hate it, whatever your take is on the 80s, what can't be denied is how much it actually progressed many aspects of film, technology, expectation, and dare I say, fashion. And indeed, this is none so true as with the genre of science fiction, you know. Throughout the 80s, we had an explosion of movies that sought to redefine what we understood, believed, and would come to expect from the genre in general, with a host of movies that kind of pushed back those boundaries, offered social commentary to some of the major issues of the time, and ramped up tenfold the visual effects, visual displays, and world building like nothing that had ever been seen before, bringing us some of the biggest science fiction franchises and movies of all time, you know, that there has ever been. This documentary captures this fantastically, not only in showcasing some of the best sci-fi movies that have ever been across the 80s, you know, but also some many may have missed, some that, you know, have achieved now cult status, and some that perhaps were decades ahead of their time, whilst also bringing some other deep dives into how some of the issues in the 80s impacted on and were kind of reflected in the attitudes and the output from movies at this time, how their special effects were created, and how they evolved from the earlier films in the genre to create wondrous new worlds, new ways of thinking, and indeed the legacy such films have had and still have on films today. It's certainly clear that the film has been made with a genuine passion for the genre and indeed the era, you know, with subtle nods to many other aspects of film during the decade and a well kind of balanced cast of contributors from the industry, actors, directors, musicians, producers, writers, all providing a very insightful and detailed look into the craft and the love and appreciation for the movies that are featured. It takes a light-hearted yet organised approach, I think, which does keep everything kind of flowing, counting through each year of the decade, as it also kind of showcases other elements and aspects of sci-fi during the era, which does kind of break things up from simply being kind of like a countdown or a simple fact file of each movie. It concentrates on the experiences of those involved, not just the movies themselves, which I thought was an excellently personal touch, you know? And it was clear that they had gone out of their way to be inclusive of those involved as possible, across the board, you know? They certainly got their money's worth out of Will Wheaton, that is for sure. But joking aside, there are some great names attached to this, not least, of course, Will Wheaton, but also the likes of Ivan Reitman, Paul Verhoeven, John Carpenter and Nancy Allen, and that's just to name a few, all who give their various and unique insights into some of the showcased movies. The clips they have used to showcase some of these movies were of superb quality, I couldn't fault that, and they looked absolutely splendid in HD, especially given the relative obscurity of some of those featured, you know? Sometimes I did find that they kind of moved and flicked quite quickly from one to the other, particularly in some areas, which they did kind of see me kind of rewinding it quite a bit to catch a better glimpse of just exactly what that movie was, as there were plenty that kind of piqued my interest. Additionally, what they couldn't kind of showcase in the foreground was placed quite strategically elsewhere, such that there was just enough to kind of whet your appetite for more. Coming in at around 5 hours, admittedly it's long, I'm not going to deny that. It's entertaining enough to lose quite a bit of time while you're watching this for sure, you know? I did find, however, I did have to kind of split it up into more digestible segments, given the time that I had available on an evening, you know, to kind of give it every due attention, which it actually still worked for me, I think. And personally, as a serial, a more episodic kind of installment, I don't think it kind of deterred from the content or the continuity of it also. That's definitely one way that, you know, you can watch this without having to kind of worry about the fact that it is 5 hours long. Overall, personally, for me, I love the 80s, well, specifically the films and music from the era, and indeed science fiction, you know? And so this was right up my street from the start, combining basically the two in this cavalcade, and, you know, in one legitimately epic journey through the decade, showcasing some of the most amazing, influential, cult and game-changing movies of the decade. At the end of the day, I mean, even at 5 hours, this could never, well, it could only ever really hope to ever be a sampler of just some of the science fiction movies made in the 80s. It's probably one of the most definitive documentaries out there that I've ever seen, but really, there was just so much going on in the 80s, it would be so hard to condense it even into 5 hours. But they have certainly given it one fantastic go here, with a mammoth collection of movies, producing a very thoughtful, and enlightening, and enjoyable, and endearing documentary with a great cast, giving their thoughts on the genre in general, and just how the 80s helped to define and sculpt the landscape for science fiction in film. There is a distinct passion for the genre and the 80s in general, and this really shines through in what tantamounts to being a very enjoyable and totally nostalgic experience, absolutely. And indeed, I was really surprised at just how much I haven't seen yet. But that's what makes these kinds of documentaries so fascinating to me, you know? So, thank you indeed for sticking around to the end of the review. As I stated at the beginning, the makers of the documentary, Creator VC, were kind enough to present me with 2 free codes to enable 2 lucky people to have their own personal digital copies of the presentation to keep and watch forever. To be in with a chance of winning one of these exclusive access codes, all you simply have to do is leave a comment in the comment section below, any comment, by midnight GMT on Saturday the 26th of March 2022. I will then place everybody's names into a hat and pull 2 at random, pinning the winners' names into the same comments section on Sunday the 27th, I will then follow up separately with each of those winners to provide details on how they can obtain their winning codes. So, good luck. The documentary will also be available to buy. As it's currently available as a special unique package, I think, like I said before. So that features the Blu-ray or the DVD edition, slipcase, posters, stickers, digital download of the documentary, and again, the opportunity to have your name in the credits of the documentary itself. So that's certainly a worthwhile kind of venture. If you are interested in finding out more about the project and about the various options available, I will leave a link in the description box below. So please do check that out. It's definitely worthwhile having a look to see if it's something that you'd be interested in. But otherwise, thank you very much for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed. If you have, please leave a like. Please do hit that subscribe button for more movie reviews, trailer reactions, and other movie-related content. Absolutely loved having you here at SciFirst MovieTalk, and definitely love to have you back. Most of all, just thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.